Hey, you! Yes, you. Do you want some free stuff? How about a free Worker Hurricane Blaster? The best pistol that's ever existed in the Nerf hobby ever. Seriously. That never, ever gets boring, I promise you. Well, thankfully for you, NF Strike and I are going to be giving away 5 of these suckers, so stay tuned to the video to figure out how you can win your own. The Caliburn, a mainstay in Nerf warfare. Seriously, you pretty much can't go to a Nerf war without saying not only one, but probably a dozen of these blasters on the field. For good reason. The Caliburn, developed by Captain Slug, is quite possibly one of the most approachable and customizable blasters we have ever gotten. Even now, there's so many parts, pieces, and changes that you could do to this blaster to make it shoot pretty much any ammo type or look any way you could possibly want. And people make their own special parts themselves and throw them on their own Caliburns, and it's fun. It's really, really cool. And if you don't have a 3D printer, well then you kind of just have to either buy a kit or buy the blaster and put it together, or buy a pre-made one. There's a lot of different options out there. It's actually really easy to get your hands on a Caliburn. And now it's even easier because Worker and F10 555 now license out the Caliburn from Captain Slug, which means every single one of these they sell, Captain Slug gets a cut of the profits, which is awesome. Good for Captain Slug. That's kind of when you know you've made it, because Worker develops a lot of the really good aftermarket parts and blasters for this hobby. Without Worker, I would say this hobby would be extremely boring. And now they got their hands on the Caliburn. For those of you that live in the United States, this is probably not even an option for you because, well, you can buy one from any number of sources in a number of different ways. Either hardware kit, completed blaster, parts and pieces you put together like this kit right here. But if you live overseas, getting shipping from the US might not be an option. You might still want to get a really powerful, customizable blaster. Now, granted, this is Worker's version. They're gonna kind of keep it in their own Worker Caliburn ecosystem, but for the most part, this is a Caliburn. It's just, they put the parts and pieces in the box and they ship it to you. In fact, I was amazed how small the box was that contained every single part for this blaster. I actually didn't realize that it was going to be the Caliburn. It just kind of shows up and boom, it's a bunch of stuff. And you put it together and it's a pretty serene and calming build. I honestly didn't have many troubles with it whatsoever. Basically, the only tools you need is a screwdriver, probably a pair of pliers, and that will get through pretty much everything. But it would be nice to have a wrench to match the nuts that go with this kit, and exactly one hex head thing that goes back here, which is kind of frustrating. It doesn't include any of that stuff, which honestly they could include probably a screwdriver and a wrench for free. I don't know why they don't. It would cost them absolutely nothing. Maybe that's a change they could make in the future. And mine didn't come with any kind of lubricant. I actually just had to use my own lubricant, which was, again, kind of a little bit of a bummer, but everything else was there, and they include lots of extra O-rings, screws, bolts, little pads for putting on the screws so you don't crack any of your 3D printed parts trying to put it together. Because again, yes, it's 3D printed. Please don't leave this thing out in the sun or in like your car in the summer. It will melt and warp, and that will make you very, very sad. And the entire build for me to put this thing together was about an hour and a half, give or take a couple of mistakes that happened with me putting it together, like forgetting to put pieces in before putting other pieces together. In fact, the instructions that come with this, and yes, it did come with instructions, are okay. They're not great. The instructions themselves are kind of in broken English, and yeah, they could be a little bit better. But thankfully, Worker themselves apparently put out an entire build video on how to put this thing together. So I just kind of used that and the instructions to put the thing together, and it worked out perfectly fine for me. So I will link to that video down in the description below. That should help you put one together if you get your hands on it. And well, maybe there is a reason to get the Worker version, because the hardware kit they have for this thing, and well, getting all the pieces for around $120 to $130, kind of depends on when you order it. I really liked the hardware kit putting this together. There are lots of little changes that may be in kind of Caliburns today. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a lot of stuff. Like right back here, the pivot for the sear, the catch on the blaster, there's like a little metal insert you get to put in there, which is really cool. It's not going to move at all. I had problems with my original Caliburn catching, and most of it had to do with this right here, and This one works completely fine, and I have the feeling it has to do with the fact there's a metal insert in there and it's all screwed in there, and it's really nice. And I do know that the modern Caliburns all have these takedown pins, so if I wanted to change out something on this blaster, like change out the bolt and stuff like that, the barrel, I could just undo these pins right here and fold it open, which is a lot of fun, and that's kind of the main point of the Caliburn, is that's an extremely customizable blaster. But even if you want to do something like just change out the spring, you just undo a couple of bolts. In fact, one's missing right there. I wonder when that fell off. I'll put another one in it later. I guess I don't really need it. That's going to be a con. I'll get to that. But you just undo these things, pull this butt plate off, and you can swap out the springs in there, which is cool. The spring they have in here, I don't know what it is. It's kind of their own spring. It works. I don't know what it is. It hits this blaster. I chronographed it after putting it together, and it hits 200 FPS, so that's the same as my Caliburn that I put together a long time ago. It's just a way easier to prime, because my Caliburn, I don't want to prime for more than like a minute in a war, and it tires me out. This spring, everything just seems a lot more efficient, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of parts and pieces you can get for this thing. I already know for a fact that they sell a metal catch, trigger, and plunger for it, so yeah, safe to say there's probably going to be a lot of stuff from Worker coming out involving the Caliburn, but there's really not a whole lot of reason if you already have a Caliburn or you were already planning on getting one. Maybe Captain Slug is backed up. Maybe you're already making a large order from nfstrike.com. If you live in the US, it might be a hard sell for you to pick up this kit unless you want the cool things like, I don't think other Caliburn kits come with carbon fiber rods. At least I think they're carbon fiber. They look like carbon fiber and they feel different, so I assume they are. Maybe they aren't, but that just looks cool. It feels good. And, like, there are reasons I really like the Worker version of the hardware kit, but it's a hardware. Once you put it together, that's pretty much it. And yeah, it's kind of a hard sell, honestly. But the blaster itself is phenomenal. It does, of course, work with normal stock length darts. It has a pusher style breech, but it also works with Worker's Talon Mag system, which you would freaking hope that it would. And yes, it does work absolutely flawlessly, which is good, because now you can use Worker darts and short darts, which you're going to want to do. Shooting stock lengths out of this thing, even though it can do it in the original setup and everything, it's too powerful. Your darts, I literally had a dart fly, do a circle, then turn 90 degrees and fly off somewhere I didn't know. It's way too powerful. So you would most likely want to remove the O-ring out of the pusher, or maybe even off the plunger tube itself, in order to really reduce that airflow to make it work with standard darts. But it's really meant to be working with this kind of stuff, like short darts. That's kind of what the Caliburn is meant for. It can just do both, which is cool. And the changes to having a thumb hole grip, this is so much better. And the grip itself is, of course, extremely comfortable. There's a trigger guard right there. Trigger itself, especially with the sear, has a nice snap to it, which I really like. It feels really tactile. At least mine does. When I pull that trigger and hear that snap, things feel and look good. There were some minor issues, I still have all of these very long threaded rods coming off the front of it and off the back of it. In fact, one of my bolts fell off because this rod right here, no matter how much I tightened it and I added an extra nut in there and everything, it still wouldn't work the way it should, which is kind of weird. And honestly, I had the same kind of problem, and maybe this might, I don't even know how you would change that, to be perfectly honest, but it doesn't even need it. I'm going to thread another nut on there and try to tighten it, but these ones on the side, the most important ones, and of course the butt plate, all that stuff is firmly in place, so maybe it's not that much of an issue whatsoever. The print quality, as you would expect, is really good. It's not perfect. The blue is almost flawless. The white, especially on the magazine well, have a lot of vibration issues and stuff with their printer. And honestly, I just kind of wonder how long it's going to be until they just make one molded out of plastic, because I don't see why they wouldn't. Maybe it would cost a whole lot more, but maybe it would cost less, you know what I mean? I have a feeling we're going to see that really soon. I'm really excited that Worker has their hands on the Caliburn now. That's going to bring a lot of fun stuff to the table, I feel. Especially now that you can get, the metal sear and trigger and plunger for, 25, $30 bucks. That's pretty cool. I kind of wish there were stock pieces that were already in here, but You don't need them, obviously. This one's been fired about 100 times so far, no issues. Hopefully it lasts a really long time. If you look out there, people get these things hitting upwards of 300 FPS. It's ridiculous. It's one of the most powerful springers and the most accessible springer you can get your hands on. I'm not really interested in that at all. 200 FPS is the perfect FPS mark for me. I do have one blaster that hits around 250 if I want it to, and if I need to go higher than that, I'll probably just use an air blaster. There's a lot of stuff they can do with it now. Honestly, what I want the most of is them to make one, but it's made out of actual plastic and not 3D printed stuff. It'd be really cool to have one of these things that looks like, say, the Swordfish or the Prophecy R and stuff like that, or the Dominator. But yes, at the start of the video, I did mention that I'm going to be giving away 5 Worker Hurricanes thanks to nfstrike.com. These are going to be just the base blaster with the battery tray in here. Nothing special there. It is going to work if you put 2 AA's inside of it. You're only going to get like 30 feet. If you have some kind of IMR battery or something you can throw in here, you're going to get around 100 FPS, but if you can get a 3S LiPo, it's going to hit far harder than that. I really like this blaster. Like, it's my favorite thing I have gotten my hands on in a very long time. There's never going to be a Nerf war where I'm not carrying one of these, and for good reason. They're a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that I get to share the fun with a lot of you out there. So, 5 of these will be given away. You're going to have 1 week from the upload date. I'll have all that information down here to pick one of these up, and the way that you will have a chance to win one is by leaving a comment down below. I will be picking 5 comments. Don't comment more than once, and we'll automatically remove those. And then, I would say, the day after that, you're gonna want to check your YouTube messages. Because last time I did this kind of giveaway, nobody checked their YouTube messages. And if you don't know how to do that, you're going to want to Google how to do that. And after I've announced it, the winners will have 1 week to respond to me and give me their shipping information, which I will then give to nfstrike.com, and they will send these blasters out. After 1 week, I will be doing another drawing for all the people who did not answer until all 5 of them are given away. So you probably have a pretty good chance of winning one of these things. So, and of course, thank nfstrike.com for offering to give away 5 of these things through me. I mean, they really didn't have to, and it's really nice that they decided to, because, again, they're a lot of fun, and I really can't recommend this blaster enough. Seriously. I'm Walcom S7, thank you very much for watching this video, and of course, I hope to see you in an entirely different one.
You gotta